and gentlemen, we are so happy to be with you this beautiful afternoon. We are here live, The Real Estate View. I am Mickey, joined by my wonderful co hosts, Lorraine and Kim. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Mickey. Hi, Lorraine.
Hi, ladies.
How is everyone doing?
Good, good, good. Did you know this is the last week in July
Already.
I
of
know.
2021?
Like,
We're ending July. We finished 7 months of this year already.
it's crazy. It's really insane.
And I haven't even had a chance to take a vacation. That's what summer is for, right? You're supposed to take summer vacation. And I haven't taken summer vacation yet. I don't know. I can't keep up. But yes.
Vacations are in.
That's true. That is very true. I mean, especially with all of the craziness going on now with the spikes, and not to make this a COVID conversation, but those take that into account in terms of how
Yes.
we move now.
It does. So let's jump right into the subject. Kim, do you want to tackle that?
Well, what we're going to be talking about today is actually the moratorium.
Yes.
And once it's lifted, how is it going to affect the market?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we're each in a different space. Lorraine does notes. Mickey, you and I are both rehabbers, and you're into rentals. But
Yes.
how is that actually going to affect each of our space in the real estate world once the moratorium is lifted?
Yeah. And I think that that's a great kind of synopsis, because I don't think I don't know how many people are really taking into account how many different layers it can affect. And just as a little bit of context on the moratorium, and what exactly is it. So if you recall, so now we're in 2021, right? Beginning or middle of 2020, we had this episode called COVID that happened, which really obviously shook up the whole country and shook up the world,
The whole world,
as a matter of fact. And a lot of people were negatively affected by this pandemic that we're still currently dealing with. And so, as I think it was meant, or at least it was put into place as a way to help people. And it really depends on how you sort of analyze the moratorium and what you take from it. But I think it has a component that it's been helping people, but then it's also hurt some people at the same time. And I don't know if people really realize that. I mean, it's great that something was put into place to help people who are struggling, people who legitimately, that lost their jobs. They aren't able to make their payments on time. This moratorium did help. But unfortunately, you do have some people who are also taking advantage of this time. And even if they can pay, maybe they aren't, or maybe they're directing those funds to something else. And then that ultimately hurts landlords who are still responsible to pay the bills on the property, even if they aren't getting them from their tenants. And I'll just quickly say that that's one aspect of at least the first draft of the moratorium that didn't really resonate too much with me, because a lot of it was geared towards helping the tenants instead of helping the landlords.
So in our case, here in Baltimore and even in DC, we are like more of a tenant-friendly states, right? And that is okay. It's always been fine with us. We've always taken great care at screening our tenants. And so we had one of our tenants that, because he got COVID, and so he lost his job temporarily, didn't have any entry of salary. But, because he was such a great tenant, he was open as long as you have that communication going on. And, he was paying us time to time. And we weren't talking about eviction or anything. We couldn't, and we didn't want to. We understood where he was at. And, finally, he was able to catch up with all of his rents and all that. At the same time, I have other friends, especially one that we are going now in a transaction of buying his building, where on 6 tenants, he only has one that had paid through the whole process. Those whole, what is it now, 18 months?
Yeah, about
Right? And so he is really looking into the end of the moratorium, because
That's
as a landlord, 18 months, and that's what you were saying, Lorraine, as a landlord, the bank doesn't have the moratorium for you. The bank doesn't understand that, hey, people are not paying me, and so I might not be able to cover. Yes, we all have reserve, because we need to have reserve, but did you have enough reserve to cover you for a year and a half? Most of
right.
us, no, right? We don't do that, because we don't expect that. And so it has really been a tough year for a lot of the landlords out there. But at the same time, I do understand the other side of when someone is sick and can't have those entries. So it was really a kind of like a weird situation that we were
Yeah.
dealing with.
Yeah. Because you can see it from both sides. So
Yes.
that makes it tough. Or you've
Yeah.
experienced both sides
Yeah.
anyway. So yeah.
What about you, Kim?
Well, I mean, we're in Illinois, it's definitely tenant friendly as well. So, I've spoken to so many sellers who are stuck in a position, and most of them are elderly, and that's the sad part.
Mm,
Are elderly, and they don't know what to do. So, you're trying to talk to them. They have these tenants who I have a story, a situation where this particular gentleman, he has a tenant in there. She hasn't paid since COVID started, and then on top of that, she also rented out a room in the house
Mm.
to
oh,
somebody else.
so
Wow.
she was making money.
Yeah, so who she's
Wow.
collecting rent from and not paying the actual owner of the house the rent that
Unreal.
so he can pay his mortgage. So those are the types of situations that just gives people a bad name,
Yes.
And
Yes.
he's desperately looking for some sort of assistance, and that's where we step in, to try
Yes.
to alleviate that stress, because it's definitely stressful, especially for a 75-year-old.
I can't even imagine, like,
I can't
you're
imagine.
providing housing for someone, and not only is this person not paying you, but like you said, Mickey, she's renting out what she's not paying for and making money. Wow.
It was
Wow,
the
wow, wow.
wildest thing I've ever heard.
On a
The
75-year-old
gall.
year old man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh
okay.
my, that's so bad.
I mean, but most of the moratoriums are going to be lifted hopefully by the end of August. And here in Illinois, they don't usually evict people around the holidays and when it's
Mm,
cold.
Winter, right? And we all get it. Like, I will not evict someone in winter. That's inhuman. Like, you don't do that.
yeah.
Exactly. So you're looking at a long-term eviction process.
Yes. Yes.
So I have a question because, and I don't know this law to the T, or all the specifics to the T, but I know that they had come out with, or there are options available to assist
Yes.
landlords in addition
There
to
are.
assisting
Mhm.
tenants with like with back pay. Like
Yes.
if you haven't paid your rent in however long and you don't have the means to, there are programs to be able
There
to
are.
assist.
Yes.
And now they're giving them not only just directly to the tenants, but they're giving them directly to the landlords now as
Exactly.
well. So I'm wondering
Yes.
if that could be an option for
Well,
your
it
guy,
it
Kim.
is it is an option, and in our company, we've made it a point to really study those options and
Mm,
to have those open doors with open conversation with the city, Baltimore City, so that we know exactly when those programs are coming, who is eligible to that, so that we can tell our tenants, our future tenants, as well as we're buying those property, to tell them, listen, I see here you have a need, and this is where you need to apply, and this is how long it's going to take. And most of those people, if you tell them, you have those open conversation, they genuinely see that you are trying to help them here.
hmm
Like, yes, we are going to buy this house, you are going to become our tenant, but we do have expectations of you making those steps to qualify yourself and to have this program, so that all of us will be happy into this. And so, yes, I think it's up to us as, businesses, to know all of the laws and the regulations that are coming out as they're coming out, because and it keeps changing. Like you
Yeah,
were saying,
mm,
Kim, if ever there's another outbreak, like right now with all the variables that are out there, we're seeing that. So Baltimore is still pushing a little bit the momentum, or at least adding some other things on the side, saying like, no, you can't evict if the person has this and that. So
hmm
it's always changing. So we really, really have to just know what is happening in each of the counties, cities, because they each have very specific regulation. But those help is there, is available.
And I
Right.
think what's great, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Kim.
Well, no, I was just going to say most of the forums, the programs that are available to assist landlords, the
Yes.
tenants have to be on board. So you also have to have a compliant tenant
Yes.
who's going to fill out the forms. So
Yes.
having that open dialogue with the tenants and them being cooperative is it's very important in order
Yeah.
to get that assistance.
And
Yeah.
I will never say it enough. Like the success of us having good tenants, it's because, and she's not here, Isa Cyrus, if you're listening, my business partner has been she has been a project manager for a very long time, and she has specific steps. And so, if any of our listener is interested, you can visit our website www.ikindev.com/screening. We have this documents available with a video that goes into details on how to screen your tenant, because it all comes down to that. If you have that right tenant that's going to have those open conversation with you, all of this is just going to be, not a rough ride, but you're still going to hit some roadblocks, but it's just going to be easier. The tenant is going to be compliant with you, going and filling out those paperwork and just making things so that things can work out better.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, they say in real estate, you make your money when you buy. When you choose the correct tenants, the right
Yeah.
tenant, you won't run into these types of issues.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
Lorraine, I know that with the moratorium being lifted and the potential for a lot of banks possibly selling off the
Mm.
notes, whether it be performing or non-performing, how does that affect the note space? Because I know you're the notes girl.
Yeah. So it actually affects the note space a couple of different ways. So one way I'll explain is that it's similar to what you both have talked about in terms of, you have a tenant who's making payments to the landlord. In order for them to make their payments, they need cooperation from the tenant. So when you look at that trickle down effect, so if the tenant isn't paying the landlord and the landlord isn't able to make payments, then who's making the payments? And one major payment outside of the mortgage payments is taxes. So
Yeah.
one thing that I can see this potential ending of the eviction and foreclosure moratorium, which by the way, even though most states I think are supposed to expire this Sunday, July 31st, there are a few states like mine in particular, New York, that have extended this moratorium to the end of August.
Illinois
So
as
when you
well.
start to think about, okay, the longer that either tenants or landlords aren't paying their bills, the longer that the arrears are building up. And so when you think about mortgage notes, one of the main factors outside of purchasing the debt of the mortgage is making sure that there aren't any tax liens or tax deeds. So if the bills aren't being paid, the mortgage isn't being paid, you can almost guarantee that the taxes aren't being paid either. So what I can see happening is either you're going to have an increase in non-performing notes, which is again, you have a borrower who isn't making their payment, so they're no longer performing on their promise to make their mortgage payments. So you're going to have an influx, I feel, of non-performing notes, or maybe even sub-performing notes, and those are technically they're making their payments, but they might not be making their payments every month. So it's semi-performing or sub-performing because maybe they make two payments and then they miss a month or two. So you're going to see an influx of those. And then I also feel like you're going to see a lot of abandoned properties. So
Yes.
oftentimes you're going to have tenants that are like, okay, well, I'm not going to get kicked out, but I'm also not going to pay whatever I owe. So I'm just going to abandon the property. And then if you have a lender, so a private money lender or a landlord who isn't receiving these payments, they're not going to come out. They're generally not going to come out of pocket and make those payments on behalf of the tenant or the borrower. So you are going to see a lot more abandoned or vacant properties on the market as well. And then you're also going to see, an increase in I think you're also going to see an increase in performing notes or non-performing notes that have now turned into performing notes. And just not to be technical, but a performing note is essentially what it sounds like. This borrower has been making payments consistently on their mortgage because not everyone wants to not pay. And
Right.
so you might have the
Right.
opportunities to modify loans. So a lot of you would look at, as I look at the inventory that I have access to, a lot of these mortgages or most of these mortgages were either initiated roughly between 2013 to 2016. So it's not to say that we had a height in the market at that time, but there was a bit of a height in terms of prices at that time. So when you had people purchasing mortgages between 2013 to 2017, they were at the height of the market. Now we're in 2021 and maybe they can't afford those payments. So you can step in, especially as this moratorium sort of ends, you can step in as the bank and then craft or renegotiate these contracts and help people stay in their properties, help landlords keep the properties that they originally bought for investment. So I guess a long-winded way of saying I see the ending of this moratorium not only putting more inventory on the market, which will, I think, affect us being in a seller's market and maybe kind of even us out a little bit. But then I also think it will create opportunities, more creative financing opportunities, more ways to negotiate with people
Yeah.
because now we have more options. And I know, Kim, you're definitely the creative financing expert. So maybe you can kind of touch upon maybe the flexibility or the options that would be available if now people have a concern about foreclosure or evictions.
Well, I wouldn't call myself the expert, but yes, I,
I would.
I,
I'll take the
I
brunt.
will call you the expert. Yeah.
Yes.
I do have experience in it. And, and for a homeowner, the last thing they want to do is not pay your mortgage, you
Hmm.
know, and it's an embarrassing time for them. It's a difficult time for them.
It is.
So first and foremost, our highest priority as an investor is to go in there and try to see what we can do to help the seller. So the first thing, one of the first things, most popular thing is to do a loan modification. And we have some blogs on our website. If you want to visit www.onyxhomesllc.com, you can check out some of our blogs on our site on ways to prevent foreclosures. So first, one of the first ways would be to do a loan modification. And, there are several different ways. So we kind of go down the list and work through each of the different ways that we can stop the foreclosure. And then, once we've exhausted all of our efforts, then we try to come up with a creative way to get the seller out of the situation that they're in.
I love that. I love the fact that you will take the time, like, to go through helping you stop the foreclosure first, because there are ways
Yeah.
to do that. And so I really do think that people will gain more by knowing how you work with them and that there is a possibility because I don't think out there this is often spoken of.
No, there are possibilities, and the last thing you want to do is see somebody lose their home. you
Yes,
know?
absolutely. Yes.
So being able to offer them a solution, as a real estate investor is, I think it's a really good thing. I mean, like I said, sometimes, real estate investors get a bad name, but we are truly here to help sellers when they get into a difficult situation. Because sometimes you get into a pinch and you just need assistance.
And I think both of you had touched upon this earlier in terms of you staying on top of what's going on because things
Yes.
are ever changing. Things are constantly getting extended or pushed back. So being able to stay on top and then also advise and guide people through this stressful time and the ups and downs of what's going on is really beneficial, to helping us get through this whenever the ending is in sight.
I as we were going, through this COVID period and all, I just remember like thinking like no one knows when it's going to end. Like no one actually knows. Like whatever people are saying out there, there isn't a specific date. There isn't a
Hmm.
specific way of doing things. So we're all just, doing our best and trying our best to mitigate and like to find new ways of doing things and new solutions. And so this is where we get, we get to sit down with our the sellers and just like go through their finances and go through the real things and seeing what can be done. And sometimes it can also be like their relationship with their employer, like, have you tried this, or did you apply to this job where they're hiring right now online? Is there any way someone in your family can help you for a little while? Is there a way for you to have a loan somewhere? And so there are ways of helping people. And I think this is what COVID had taught me, that this was actually a period in time that we have not anticipated, and where the real estate has become a place where you can actually help people. It's not anymore like, the transaction, oh, I buy the houses and I do this and that. It's really, really a people thing, and you're really touching people's lives.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And even on top of that, and sort of going back to the notes, and Mickey, I think you kind of touched upon this earlier in terms of like if the landlord is struggling to make
Mm,
payments and they can't necessarily go to the bank and say, oh, well, I can't pay you because my tenant didn't pay me. Like the bank doesn't want to hear that. But when
no.
you're dealing with mortgage notes, you are the bank. So you have the ability to sort of control a little bit more about what's going on. I mean, obviously you can't make the tenant or the borrower make their payments, but as the bank you have a little bit more flexibility. Maybe again, going back to the modifications, maybe I can go in and restructure this contract so that I can hopefully get this tenant to stay in their property and consistently making their payments. Maybe and it really also depends on what kind of contract it is. And again, I don't want to get too technical, but when we're talking about mortgage notes, there's different kinds of paper. You have mortgages, you have contract for deeds, which is generally the underwriting process for a contract for deeds is a little bit more lax than a mortgage. And you usually have private investors issuing contracts for deeds versus big institutions like banks and hedge funds that are going to be issuing mortgages. So just as that for clarification. And then you also have lease options. So
Mhm.
depending on what kind of paper it is, you as the bank have a little
Yes.
bit more flexibility in terms of what you can do if things don't necessarily go to quote unquote plan, because
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
real estate, it's investments, nothing goes to plan. But yeah, so that provides you a little bit more flexibility when you are the bank or the mortgage loan investor, as opposed to maybe being the landlord in some situations. So just
Yes.
And
wanted to
what
add
I
that.
Well, I think you add a lot of value there when you're saying that, Lorraine. When you are the bank, this is just, it's so much more than like, the Wells Fargo Bank, where you're just like a number in the system. This is a person. So you
Mhm.
can actually talk with your bank, you can actually come to an agreement. Like, Lorraine or anyone else that is holding the mortgage notes wants your best interest. Like, we want this relationship to work,
Right,
basically. And
right.
we understand that things are hard. We're not there to take advantage of our tenants or of the people. That's
Hmm.
not how we work. And so I think that it's important for the people to know that we are really, really a service based um, community as investor. That, yes, you do have the investor that will be harsh and all, but in the majority, we are really there to serve people, and we have different services. There's a lot of creativity that can be done
Hmm.
in order to find the right solution for everyone.
And I think,
Absolutely.
and I'm sorry, Kim, just one quick one point, excuse me, one quick point that I wanted to say, just one,
That's
is
what.
that it just brings a human component to the
Oh yes.
transaction,
Mm,
right? I
mm,
mean, we're still in business, we're still obviously here to make money and to make a difference and an impact, but having that human component or that empathy to a degree, I think also plays a huge part as well.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, and we've talked about this before. It's all about listening, because if you don't listen to the needs of a seller, there's no way you can help them. Because that's why, you're always throwing out, oh yeah, we'll buy your house for cash. No, the seller has a problem. There's a problem there that needs to be solved, and sometimes cash does not solve that problem. So Lorraine threw out, not loan modifications, but lease options. That's a different way that, in subject twos, you can help
Yep,
sellers in that way, and also buyers.
yep, yep, yep. Because I mean, and you know, that's actually a really great point, because I don't think people have taken into account how, and we might have touched upon this, how the fact that people can't pay their bills, how that affects their credit. Right? Like there's a springboard effect to this. If someone can't make their payments, then obviously their credit is going to be hurt, which will then affect how they can get another job, oh excuse me, another property or another place to
Yes.
live.
Later on, yeah.
Because if you, and then you as a landlord, if you're trying to get someone out of your place, they can't really go anywhere if they don't have somewhere else to go. So
Exactly.
that sort of adds to the pain point as well. It's like, okay, well, I can't get them out of my place, but then they also don't qualify to go anywhere else. So it's like, okay, well, what do I do now? So that's where the maybe the lease options or the subject twos or some other creative options of cash for keys or all these other different opportunities help to move along the process.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. This
Absolutely.
was some good stuff today, guys.
Yeah, I think we dropped a bunch of gems today. I wish we should get some sort of emoji so that things like pop up on the screen.
Gold bars of
Yeah.
Yeah, go bars. Right, exactly, exactly.
But
Um,
I just think that we cannot say it enough. Like Kim, you were saying, like we, it's all about communication. Take the time to go the extra mile of just like knowing. First, when you're buying those property, like get to know what you're getting into it. Like it's not like this golden opportunity, right? When people are selling and they're distressed and like things are hard, well, it might be your problem if you don't take time of like
mhm.
like investigating it well and finding the right solution. And so taking the time to just going and talking, like we talk to the future tenants, we understand why is this one wanting to sell, how can we help. And
I think we might
don't
have some
need to sell
technical. Sorry.
me.
No, no, go ahead. I'm sorry. It was just no, no.
Okay, so we're having
Solution
Maybe she
where,
did. Oh.
oh,
yeah,
am I back?
yeah,
Yes,
going in,
sort of.
but it's okay.
It's
Okay.
okay.
Where
I
was
think
I?
I'm not sure,
It's
to
going
be
in.
honest with you.
Well, I was saying that, let's say like him, like you can find a creative solution and that finally your seller doesn't need to sell anymore. That is a success in itself, right?
Yeah, just
Like the
help them.
person, yes, that's a success. And so we are there just to provide that kind of service that right now is so needed. Like
Hmm.
there's so much needs. And even as we're going and some of those moratorium are being pushed back, and then there's winter coming, so we can't evict people. It's just a matter of like talking to your tenants and figure out what will work, what program do you need, let's apply for the program, let's make this work so that we're all happy into it.
Yeah, so it's a win-win for everyone.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
agreed. Well, ladies,
Absolutely.
as always, love hanging out and chatting real estate with you guys. You guys have any parting words?
Well, one thing that I'll say is that it's important to know what's available to you, especially as landlords and even as tenants, knowing the different programs and the
Mm.
options available. So be sure to reach out to any one of us if you're looking for more information about, if you're, again, a tenant or a landlord and you want more information about what's available to you, or even if you want to know what you can do to kind of pivot from this eviction and foreclosure moratorium. Maybe you're interested in becoming the bank. Maybe you're interested in learning about more creative financing options, and things of that nature. So we'll leave all of our information in the comment section. So definitely feel free to reach out if you have any questions.
I
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And so always stay on top of the information that is going out. Things will change. They are constantly changing. And so you can't really look back at like, 1 month ago, what was on the news. Like stay updated on what your state, your city even is saying about all the new programs that are coming out for landlords and for tenants. And so all of us need to stay updated all the time.
That's great advice, Mickey.
Yep.
So please join us next week for another episode of The Real Estate View, where we will have a special guest.
Yes,
Yes.
I am excited.
Super excited for our guest.
Yes.
Until next week, know your why.
Know your heart.
And know your purpose. Thanks for joining, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Good week.